She was thrown from the stars and landed in the arms of a human asterisk. The autumn wind carried the scent of dying leaves across the isolated research facility nestled in the Colorado mountains. Dr. James Mitchell stood before his life's work, a massive gravitational manipulation device that hummed with barely contained energy. The underground laboratory stretched beneath the old mining complex. Hidden from the world that had rejected his theories for over a decade, James adjusted his woolen glasses and checked the calculations one final time. The equations covered every available surface, a chaotic symphony of numbers that defied conventional physics. His colleagues at MIT had called him delusional when he proposed that gravity could be artificially controlled through quantum field manipulation. Now, alone in his self-funded laboratory, he was about to prove them wrong. The device itself was a marvel of improvised engineering. Crystalline cores salvaged from military surplus, hummed within copper rings arranged in precise geometric patterns. Each component had been carefully positioned according to his revolutionary theory about gravitational waves and their interaction with electromagnetic fields. If his calculations were correct, he could create localized gravity wells or anti-gravity fields with pinpoint accuracy. Outside, the night sky erupted in brilliant flashes of light. James rushed to the surface, his heart pounding as he witnessed something impossible. A massive ship hung in the upper atmosphere, its hull gleaming like polished silver against the stars. The vessel was clearly not of Earth origin, its design too elegant and alien for human technology. As James watched in amazement, a smaller object detached from the main ship. It wasn't falling naturally, but had been deliberately ejected, tumbling through the atmosphere at incredible speed. Through his telescope, he could make out a humanoid figure trapped within some kind of escape pod that was rapidly failing. Without hesitation, James sprinted back to his laboratory. The falling figure would impact the mountainside in less than 3 minutes. There was only one chance to save whoever was inside that pod. He activated his gravitational device, pushing it beyond its tested limits. The crystals glowed with intense blue light as he focused the anti-gravity field skyward. Effect was immediate and spectacular. The falling pod's descent slowed dramatically as it entered his artificially created gravity well. James carefully adjusted the field strength, creating a gentle cushion of reduced gravity that gradually brought the pod to rest in the clearing outside his facility. Steam rose from the pod's metallic surface as James approached cautiously. The outer shell was unlike any material he had ever seen, smooth and seamless except for hairline cracks that spider-webbed across its surface. With a soft hiss, the pod split open like a flower blooming in reverse. Inside lay a figure that took James's breath away. She was unmistakably humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin held a pale blue luminescence that seemed to come from within, and her hair flowed like liquid silver, despite the absence of any breeze. Most striking were her eyes, which flickered open to reveal irises of deep violet that seemed to hold depths of intelligence beyond human comprehension. The being tried to sit up but gasped in pain, her hand moving to her side where James could see dark fluid seeping through her form-fitting clothing. Without thinking, he reached out to help her, and she didn't pull away from his touch. "Are you hurt?" James asked, then immediately felt foolish. Of course she was hurt, and there was no reason to think she would understand English. To his surprise, she spoke, her voice melodic but strained. "Your language... I can comprehend it. My neural implant adapts to local communication patterns." She studied his face with curious intensity. "You are the one who manipulated gravitational forces to save me?" James nodded, still struggling to process the reality of the situation. "I'm Dr. James Mitchell. You're safe now, but we need to get you medical attention." "I am Princess Zephyia of the Valdrian Empire," she said, attempting again to sit up. and I fear my rescue has only delayed my death. My brother has declared me a traitor to our people and cast me into the void to die. He believes me dead, and perhaps that is for the best." James helped her to her feet, noting how she seemed to weigh almost nothing despite her apparent solidity. "Whatever happened up there? You're safe now? Can you walk?" Zephyra nodded weakly, leaning against him for support. As they made their way toward the facility, she gazed up at the stars with an expression of longing and loss. "Your world is beautiful. In its simplicity," she murmured. "I had not expected to find such kindness among a species we considered primitive." James bristled slightly at the word primitive, but held his tongue. After all, he had just saved an alien princess with technology. That shouldn't exist. Perhaps they had more to learn from each other than either of their species realized. As they entered his laboratory, Zephyra's eyes widened at the sight of his gravitational device. "Impossible," she whispered. "How does a civilization at your level of development possess such advanced technology?" James couldn't help but smile, despite the circumstances. Sometimes the impossible just needs the right person to believe in it. "Now let's take care of that wound before we discuss interstellar politics." The strange night had only just begun, and James sensed that his quiet life of research and solitude was about to become far more complicated than he had ever imagined. Dawn broke over the mountain peaks as James finished treating Zephyra's wounds with his limited medical supplies. Her alien physiology was remarkably similar to human anatomy, though her blood had a faint luminescent quality that fascinated him. She had explained that her people, the Valdrians, had evolved on a world with higher radiation levels, which accounted for their natural bioluminescence. "Your healing methods are crude but effective," Zephyra observed as James secured the last bandage. "On my world, such injuries would be healed with cellular regeneration chambers within hours." "Well, this is what we primitive humans have to work with," James replied with a wry smile. "Though I notice you're not complaining about the results." Zephyra's expression softened. "Forgive me. I spoke without thinking. Your people may lack our technology, but you possess something we have lost." She gestured toward his gravitational device. "Innovation born of desperation and dreams. My people have grown complacent in our advancement." James poured coffee for both of them, noting how Zephyra studied the simple ceramic mug, as if it were a precious artifact. "Tell me about your brother. What happened on that ship?" Zephyra's violet eyes darkened with pain that went deeper than her physical wounds. "Prince Korath has always hungered for power. Our father, Emperor Valdris, grows old, and the succession has been a source of tension for years. I discovered that Korath has made an alliance with the Shadow Syndicate, a criminal organization that deals in forbidden technologies and enslaved worlds." "Enslaved worlds?" James set down his coffee, the full weight of interstellar politics beginning to sink in. "The Shadow Syndicate conquers primitive civilizations and harvests their resources, including their populations. Korath promised them access to dozens of developing worlds in exchange for their support in claiming the throne." Zephyra's hands clenched into fists. "I tried to expose his treachery to the Imperial Council, but he accused me of treason first. During the journey to present evidence, he arranged for my ... accident." James leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. "So now he thinks you're dead, and he's free to continue his plans?" "Worse," Zephyra whispered. "The succession ceremony takes place in 3 of your days. Once he claims the throne, the Shadow Syndicate will begin their harvest. Billions of innocent beings will suffer or die." The weight of responsibility settled on James's shoulders like a mountain. This wasn't just about saving one alien princess anymore. "What can we do? Even if I could get you back to your ship, it would be suicide." Zephyra stood and walked to his gravitational device, her injured movements still graceful despite her. "Pain, This technology of yours ... could be the key. Valdrian ships are protected by gravitational shields that deflect most weapons and detection systems. But if we could create the right frequency disruption, we could sneak aboard undetected, James finished, his scientific mind already racing with possibilities. But I'd need to completely redesign the device, make it portable and precise, enough to fool alien technology. I can help, Zephyr offered. I understand both Valdrian technology and your remarkable innovation. Together, we might achieve what neither could alone. Over the next 18 hours, they worked side by side in the laboratory. James marveled at Zephyra's intuitive understanding of complex physics, while she seemed equally amazed by his ability to create sophisticated technology from seemingly primitive components. Their collaboration flowed naturally, as if they had worked together for years rather than days. As they labored, they shared stories of their respective worlds. James told her about Earth's history of conflict and cooperation, of humanity's struggle to reach beyond their planetary boundaries. Zephyr described the Valdrian Empire's golden age and its gradual decline into complacency and political corruption. Your species has something precious, Zephyr said during a brief rest. You face impossible odds and find ways to overcome them. My people have forgotten how to dream of better things. Maybe that's changing, James suggested. After all, you're here fighting for what's right, even though it cost you everything. Their eyes met across the laboratory, and James felt something. Electric passed between them. It wasn't just attraction, though he couldn't deny the growing connection he felt. It was recognition of kindred spirits, two beings who refused to accept the limitations others placed on them. The moment was interrupted by an urgent beeping from Zephyra's communication device. A holographic message appeared, showing Prince Korath addressing what appeared to be the Imperial Council. Fellow Valdrians, Korath announced, his voice dripping with false grief. I regret to inform you that my sister, Princess Zephyra, has perished in a tragic accident. As her death was honorable, I call for the immediate acceleration of the succession ceremony. We must not let our empire remain without strong leadership in these uncertain times. The hologram faded, and Zephyra's face was stone. He wastes no time. The ceremony will be tomorrow, not in 3 days as originally planned. James looked at their partially completed device. We'll have to finish this tonight. Can you contact anyone loyal to you on the ship? Admiral Thane served under my father for decades. If anyone would help us, it would be him. But contacting him risks exposing our location. Then we don't contact him, James said with growing determination. We finish this device, get aboard that ship, and stop your brother ourselves. Zephyr stared at him in amazement. You would risk your life for people you've never met? For worlds you'll never see? James met her gaze steadily. Sometimes the impossible just needs the right person to believe in it. You believed in fighting for what's right, even when it cost you everything. I believe in that fight too. As night fell over the mountain laboratory, two unlikely allies prepared to challenge an empire. The modified gravitational disruptor hummed quietly against James's chest as they approached the landing site Zephyr had chosen. The device was smaller than a briefcase, but packed with enough power to theoretically mask their approach from Valdrian. Sensors, theoretically being the key word that made James's stomach churn with nervous energy. The Valdrian ship hung in Earth's upper atmosphere like a predatory bird, its sleek hull reflecting the moonlight. Zephyr had explained that the vessel operated on rotating shifts with minimal crew during the night cycle. Their best chance was to intercept a supply shuttle during its routine cargo run. There, Zephyr pointed to a light moving against the knee. Starfield, Transport Vessel Delta 7. It follows a predictable flight path to collect atmospheric samples from your world. James activated the disruptor, feeling its subtle vibration as it began generating the complex interference pattern Zephyr had helped him design. "How do you know they're still following standard protocols? Won't your brother have changed security procedures?" "Koreth's arrogance is his weakness," Zephyr replied, her violet eyes tracking the approaching shuttle. "He believes me dead and sees your world as primitive. He would never imagine a threat from this direction." The shuttle descended toward their position, its hull gleaming with the same opalescent quality as Zephyr's escape pod. As it drew closer, James could see through its transparent sections to the Valdrian crew inside. Two beings, tall and elegant, like Zephyr, moved about their duties with casual efficiency. "Now," Zephyr whispered. James increased the disruptor's output, creating a localized gravitational anomaly that would appear as a natural phenomenon to the shuttle's sensors. The effect was immediate. The shuttle's smooth flight pattern wobbled, as its systems tried to compensate for the unexpected gravitational interference. The shuttle began an emergency landing sequence, settling onto the rocky ground 50 meters from their hiding place. James watched in amazement as a section of the hull simply dissolved, revealing the two crew members as they stepped out to investigate the anomaly. "Molecular phase technology," Zephyr explained quietly. "The hull can shift between solid and gaseous states at will." They waited until the crew had moved away from their ship before making their approach. Zephyr moved with the fluid grace of a dancer, her earlier injuries apparently healed enough not to slow her down. James followed, trying to match her silent footwork despite his heavier human frame. The shuttle's interior was a marvel of elegant engineering. Smooth surfaces curved seamlessly into control panels that responded to touch with gentle musical tones. Zephyr moved to the pilot's position while James marveled at the technology around him. "Can you fly this thing?" he whispered. "All Valdrian. Royalty are trained in spacecraft operation," she replied, her hands dancing across the controls with practiced ease. "Hold on." The shuttle lifted silently from the ground, its ascent so smooth that James barely felt the acceleration. Through the transparent hull, he watched the crew members below looking up in confusion as their transport departed without them. "Won't they contact the main ship?" James asked. "Not immediately," Zephyr said with satisfaction. "Standard protocol requires them to investigate the gravitational anomaly first. We have perhaps 20 minutes before they report the shuttle missing." The main ship grew larger as they approached, its massive hull extending beyond the limits of James's vision. Docking bays opened like mechanical flowers along its sides, and Zephyr guided their stolen shuttle toward one of the smaller ports. "Service bay," she explained, less heavily monitored than the main entrances. As they docked, James felt the subtle shift as artificial gravity took hold. The sensation was different from Earth's natural gravity, somehow more gentle yet precisely controlled. Emergency lights bathed the docking bay in a soft blue glow, and James could see maintenance equipment and storage containers arranged with military precision. "The central computer core is 7 levels up," Zephyr said as they exited the shuttle. "If we can access it, I can broadcast evidence of Koreth's treachery to the entire Valdrian fleet. But first, we need to reach my father's quarters." They moved through corridors that curved and flowed like organic passages rather than mechanical constructions. The walls seemed to pulse with a faint internal light, and James noticed that their footsteps made no sound on the strange material of the floor. "Bioarchitectural design," Zephyr noted his amazement. "The ship is partially alive, grown rather than built. It responds to the crew's needs and can repair minor damage automatically." They encountered their first guards at a junction of 3 corridors. 2 Valdrian soldiers in form-fitting armor that seemed to shimmer with protective energy fields. James tensed, but Zephyr stepped forward boldly. "Soldiers," she said with the commanding tone of someone born to rule. I require immediate escort to the Emperor's quarters. The guards stared at her in shock, their weapons lowering slightly. Princess Zephyra? But you were reported dead. Prince Korath said. Prince Korath is a traitor and a liar, Zephyra declared. I survived his attempt on my life and have returned to expose his crimes. Will you honor your oath to the crown? Or to a usurper? The guards exchanged glances, uncertainty clear in their alien features. James held his breath, knowing that everything depended on this moment. Finally, the senior guard saluted Zephyr with a gesture James didn't recognize, but clearly understood. We serve the true heir of Valdris, the guard said firmly. Lead the way, princess. As they moved through the ship with their unexpected escort, James marveled at the loyalty Zephyra commanded even in apparent death. It spoke to the kind of leader she was, someone who inspired devotion through more than just royal blood. The Emperor's quarters were located in the ship's most secure section, behind multiple layers of both technological and biological security. As they approached the final checkpoint, James could feel the weight of destiny pressing down on him. Everything he had worked for, everything Zephyra had sacrificed, would be decided in the next few minutes. Whatever happens, Zephyra said quietly. As they prepared to enter her father's chambers, know that you have given me hope when I thought all was lost. James squeezed her hand gently. Then let's make sure that hope becomes reality. The emergency broadcast began just as the chamber doors exploded inward. Prince Korath strode into the room flanked by a dozen heavily armed guards, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. He was taller than Zephyra, with the same elegant features but cold golden eyes that held no warmth or compassion. Impossible, Korath snarled, his gaze fixed on his sister. You died. I watched your pod burn in the atmosphere of a primitive world. Yet here I stand, brother, Zephyra replied calmly, her hand still on the broadcast controls. Alive to expose your treachery to the entire fleet. Throughout the ship and across the Valdrian fleet, Emperor Valdris's voice echoed from every communication device. His words, translated through James's universal translator, carried the weight of absolute authority as he detailed Korath's crimes. The medical evidence of poisoning, the secret alliance with the Shadow Syndicate, the planned harvest of innocent worlds, all of it laid bare for the Empire to judge. Stop the transmission. Korath roared, raising his weapon toward the control panel. I think not, came a voice from the doorway. Admiral Thane entered with his own contingent of loyal soldiers, their weapons trained on Korath's guards. The grizzled veteran's weathered face showed grim satisfaction as he surveyed the scene. Prince Korath, by order of Emperor Valdris, you are under arrest for treason, attempted murder, and conspiracy against the Empire. The standoff stretched taut as both groups of soldiers faced each other across the crystalline chamber. James found himself caught in the middle, acutely aware that one wrong move could trigger a firefight that would doom them all. You forget. Yourself, Admiral, Korath said coldly. I am the rightful heir. My sister's death means... Your sister lives, Thane interrupted. And your crimes have been broadcast to every ship in the fleet. Half the captains are already declaring their loyalty to Princess Zephyra. As if summoned by his words, holographic displays around the chamber began showing messages from across the fleet. Ship after ship declared their support for the true royal line, their captains expressing outrage at Korath's betrayal. The tide of opinion was shifting rapidly against the would-be usurper. Korath's face contorted with desperate fury. You simple-minded fools. The Shadow Syndicate offers us unlimited expansion, unlimited power. Instead, you choose to cling to my father's weak ideals of peaceful coexistence. Those ideals built our empire, Emperor Valdris said, his strength returning as his son's true nature was finally exposed. They are what separate us from the very criminals you sought to ally with. James watched the drama unfold with fascination and growing hope. The broadcast was working. Across the vast Valdrian fleet, the truth was spreading faster than Korath could contain it. But the deposed prince wasn't finished yet. "If I cannot rule the Empire," Korath declared, his voice taking on a desperate edge, "then perhaps the Shadow Syndicate will be interested in acquiring it through other means." He activated a hidden communicator, speaking rapidly in a dialect James's translator couldn't parse. Zephora's eyes widened in horror. "He's calling in the Syndicate fleet." They must have been waiting nearby for his signal. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship as the sensor arrays detected multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace around the Valdrian fleet. Unlike the elegant curves of Valdrian design, these ships were angular and predatory, built for war, rather than exploration. "The Syndicate attack fleet," Admiral Thane reported grimly. 40 vessels against our 12. They mean to capture the fleet and use our own ships against us." Emperor Valdris struggled to his feet, his royal bearing returning despite his weakened state. "All ships, this is your emperor. Engage defensive positions. We will not yield to these parasites." The battle began immediately, space around Earth lighting up with energy discharges as the two fleets engaged. James could feel the ship shuddering under impacts from Syndicate weapons, while return fire from the Valdrian vessels painted the darkness with streams of coherent energy. In the chaos of the opening battle, Korath made his move. He lunged toward his father with a crystalline blade that seemed to absorb light, clearly intending to finish what his poison had started slowly. But James was closer. Without thinking, James threw himself between Korath and the Emperor, the alien blade, slicing across his shoulder in a line of fire. He gasped in pain, but managed to tackle Korath, both of them falling heavily to the crystalline floor. "Primitive human," Korath snarled, raising the blade for a killing blow. The weapon never fell. Zephara's own blade intercepted her brother's strike, the two crystalline weapons ringing like bells as they met. Brother and sister faced each other across crossed blades, the culmination of a lifetime of growing enmity. "I loved you once," Zephara said sadly, "before ambition poisoned your heart." "Love is weakness," Korath replied. "Power is all that matters." Their duel was brief but spectacular, both royals moving with inhuman grace and speed. But where Korath fought with rage and desperation, Zephara fought with purpose and clarity. When her blade finally found its mark, sliding between the plates of her brother's armor, he fell with a look of surprise rather than pain. "The Shadow Fleet is breaking off," Admiral Thane reported. Without Korath's promised support, they're unwilling to continue the engagement. James accepted medical attention from a Valdrian medic, marveling at how quickly their technology could heal his wounds. Around him, the crisis was resolving as rapidly as it had begun. The Shadow Syndicate fleet retreated to hyperspace, and across the Valdrian fleet, order was being restored. Emperor Valdris, his strength returning as the neural toxin was purged from his system, formally declared Zephyr his heir. The succession crisis was over, but James realized that something far more important had begun. "Dr. Mitchell," the Emperor said formally, "you have served the Valdrian Empire with honor and courage. Name your reward." James looked at Zephara, seeing in her violet eyes the same connection he felt growing between them. "I don't want a reward, Your Majesty. I want a partnership." "Partnership?" Valdris raised an eyebrow. "Between our worlds," James continued. "Humanity is young, but we have something your empire needs. We dream of impossible things and make them real. Your empire has wisdom and technology we could learn from. Together, we could build something neither could achieve alone." Zephara stepped forward, taking James's hand. "I second this proposal, Father." This human saved not just my life, but our entire civilization. Perhaps it's time for the Valdrian Empire to remember that strength comes not from conquest, but from cooperation." Emperor Valdris smiled, the expression transforming his weathered features. "Then let it be so. Dr. James Mitchell, I name you the first human ambassador to the Valdrian Empire. May this mark the beginning of a new age for both our peoples." As the great ship settled into Earth orbit, James looked out at the stars with new understanding. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of people trying to do the right thing. Sometimes that was enough to change everything. In the distance, Earth turned slowly in the void, no longer isolated, but part of something larger. And somewhere in the depths of space, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if approving of what they had witnessed. The princess who fell from the stars had found more than rescue in human arms. She had found hope for the future and a love that transcended the boundaries between worlds.